Hi, I'm Karen Burniston, the designer of Pop-It-Ups products for Elizabeth Craft Designs, and today I'll be teaching a tutorial on this. A cascading tag card. To make this card, you'll start with a 3-inch by 12-inch strip of some pretty heavy cardstock. Go ahead and round the corners and fold it in half. If you're going to use pattern paper for the mechanisms, I do recommend that it be a pretty heavy pattern paper. This piece of Bow Bunny is going to be just perfect. Now, I need 2 pieces for the mechanism, and they should be 6 inches long. And as for the width, they can be anything 3 inches or greater. Eventually, they are going to be 3 inches wide. For my card today, because of this particular pattern paper, I decided to cut along the edge of that white stripe so that I could center the mechanism through that blue stripe and have kind of an equal amount of white on either side, even though eventually it'll be mostly covered up. That was kind of my thought process when I was doing it. The mechanism is built using number 975, the Adirondack chair die set. What this mechanism is a doubled back of the chair. So what I want to do is I want to fold my paper in half. I want to place that fold across the back of the chair so that the fold is lined up right at the center of the chair where those alignment nubs are. I'll use some temporary removable tape to hold that in place. So now you get the sense of what's going on here. The fold of that paper is right there across where those alignment nubs are. And then what I'll do is just roll that through my die cutting machine. You can use any die cutting machine with Pop-It-Ups dies, anything that can accommodate a wafer thin die. Since I'm going through 2 layers, I'll roll it through and then back through. The die should have had no problem cutting through those 2 layers. It's just a matter of getting that temporary tape off and then carefully peeling the paper off of the die. Now, in terms of removing all of the little slats in the back of the Adirondack chair, they're going to be covered up, but I'm still going to go ahead and remove them just so that they're not little pieces of confetti that can fall out of my card later. So let's take a little peek here of what this has done. It's basically doubled the back of the chair so that you get an even look to both sides of the fold. But before I open it up, I want to go ahead and train the fold. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to twist that chair at where the arms touch the back of the paper and just give that a good pinch. So I've just pivoted the entire chair over right where those little chair arms are going to touch the paper. Now I'm going to do the same thing but with just the inner part of the chair. So that's the inside part of the arm where it touches the chair. That's the other place that I want to pivot the whole thing around to work those folds. What that does is it basically just trains the folds so that now when I open it up and fold it the other way, so now I've got the right side to right side, I can just start working this piece, folding it like a card from the outside, and you'll see what happens. It basically remembers those folds and kind of trains itself. It's really quite easy to fold this. You can see now that I've got a version of the chair. It's just made with 2 chair backs, and that way it's very symmetrical on both sides. And then all I do is repeat that exact same process so that I end up with 2 identical pieces. Now, when you get to be an expert on this card, you are not going to need this step anymore because you would have just started with a 3-inch by 6-inch strip of paper and you would have cut only the chair and there would have been no extra paper around the outside. But it is easiest to fold the chair if you're just getting started with it when you have that extra paper. Now that the chair is folded, that extra paper can come off. So I'm just going to put the edge of the paper in my trimmer, trim it all off. So I'm keeping the arm of the chair. See, it's all still connected, but I just got rid of all that extra paper that's in the background. So I'll flip that around and do the same thing. I'm going to put the edge of the extra paper in my trimmer and then just trim along there. Now this shifted just a little bit, so I'm probably just going to fix this a little bit with scissors. That's going to be easier than trying to get in there and shave a little smidge off with my trimmer. This is what you're looking to end up with. Basically just the folded chair. It is darn near 3 inches high, but it happens to be just a little bit taller. So after we get it installed in our card, we'll trim a little bit more off. But for now, I'm just going to start with the actual width of the chair. And I'm just going to speed things up so that you can see that I'm doing that exact same process here on the second chair. Now I can install my 2 chair pieces inside the card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse that up and I'm going to place that in that card so that the edge of the back of the seat, so when it's in its closed position, that edge stays within the edge of the card. So that's going to be my guide for where I'm going to place this. And then I just need to add adhesive on the flat parts of the base of that chair to get it installed inside the card. The 6mm Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive tape works great for this. Of course, you could just use glue or a tape runner. It doesn't much matter. You just want to get those 3 edges there nice and sticky so that they can be installed inside the card. Now, if you started with a 3-inch piece, then this is going to fit perfectly. If you've done it the way that I've shown you in this video, where you just cut on the edge of the chair, it's just slightly too tall. So after getting installed, even with one side, you can go in with scissors and just shave that little bit off of the other side. So now it's just a matter of repeating that exact same process to do the other chair on the other side of the card. Now, one choice that you have is that you could just go ahead and add your tape in the usual manner along those 3 sides. And then rather than lining it up with the edge of the card like we did on the first one, if you really want to make sure that it's in perfect line with the one on the other side, what you can do is place it over the top of the first one, lined up perfectly. So you've got sticky side up here. I'm just using the chair underneath as a guide so that I know it's going to be exactly in the same line as the first one, and then just give it a good press. So then all I'll have to do is just go in and trim off my excess, just collapse that down and use my scissors. And now what I've got is I've got my 2 chairs attached on both sides of the card. I know that they are in a perfect line. Time to do some more snipping. I actually do not need the extra paper that's beyond where the arm connects to the back of the chair. All that extra paper on the inside part, that can come off. So I'm just going to take my scissors, snip straight across that paper and remove it just past where it connects to the back of the chair. And as long as it stays connected, you've done it all right. So just make sure you don't snip the actual fold, but you can take all the paper off on the back side, and you can do the same thing with the other chair. So just locate where it's connected to the back of the chair, snip just beyond that, remove all of that extra paper. Something that I thought would be really fun with this cascading tag card would be to use those little arms of the chair to hang charms inside the card. So just to add an extra little layer of interactive fun. To be able to do that, I'm going to need holes. I'm just going in with my small hole punch on the crocodile. Doesn't really matter what size hole, just something you could get jump ring through. You could probably even just paper pierce it. And I'm just going to go in right in on the fold of one of my arms there and just add a little hole. So that way later on I can add charms and they'll hang there in the card when it's open. It is not at all uncommon for me to see pieces, scraps sitting on the table that I would normally throw away and then say, hey, wait, that's kind of a cool pattern. I think I'll just put that in my card. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm actually using the pieces of the wood paper that I trimmed away from the chair and just extending the look there inside the card so I get a little bit more cool wood pattern. Number 973, the Tags Pivot card, has the absolute perfect size tag for this technique. This is a tag that is 2 inches wide and is 3¼ inches long. So if you don't have this die set and you're cutting these by hand, those are the dimensions you would use. If you are using the Tags Pivot card, then you have the hole protectors that come with the die set. I've added double-sided adhesive to the back of some of that remaining wood paper in the blue area, and then cut 8 of those so that I can actually add hole protectors to the front and the back of the tags. I've cut 4 of those tags out of a lightweight white cardstock. Now, one thing about a 2-inch tag, it is just a shade too wide to get down between those arms. So what you do is you take 2 of the tags, you line them up right over the top of each other, and the idea here is to actually make a little bit of an angled tag. So we're going to start about midway through the curve at the bottom of the tag and just cut straight out towards the edge of the bottom little scallop. So you can see I shaved just a little bit off of the side. And then what I'll do is just take that set, flip it right over, and do the exact same thing. So I'm starting my scissors right in the middle of the curve, so at the bottom where the rounded corners are, and then I'm cutting straight out towards the edge of the outer scallop. And what that'll do is it'll just make a slight little angled tag. That's all the difference you need. You can see it'll fit right down in there. Still wide enough to cover all of the little slats in the Adirondack chair, but it also fits in there perfectly between the arms. So I'll start with a tag that goes on the outer part of the chair. So that's the one that's going to be closest to the outside of the card. And I just want glue on the chair itself in between the slats. Slide one of my tags in until it hits the fold. I think the easiest is actually to close up the chair into the closed position because you can give everything a really good press that way and make sure that that tag is attached nicely to the chair. And I'm going to repeat that exact same process on the other side. So my glue goes on the chair itself, in between the slats. Then I'm going to add the tag in there, making sure that the bottom is right in the fold of the chair. Close the chair up and give it a good press. The two tags for the inside part of my card are also going to make the join. First thing I need to do is line them right up over the top of each other and do the same outer modification that I did for the first two. So that means the scissors start in the middle of the rounded corner and I cut straight out towards the edge, flip the whole thing over, do the same thing. So right at the bottom, right in the middle of the rounded area, cut straight out towards the edge. Now I've got my tapered tags. And I'm going to keep those lined up because I want to make the join. So the way I'm going to make the join is I'm actually going to notch these tags and then slide them together. So with them lined up right over the top of each other, I'm going there between the two scallops. And I'm going to cut straight towards the center until I'm just past the hole. So that's why using this particular tag is a great idea, because I've done all the thinking for you in the measuring. If you're doing this by hand with your own tag or rectangle, you need to come down 5/8 of an inch from the top. Now what I'm doing is I'm notching this out. So I've cut another little bit just slightly away from that first cut and then take the sliver of paper out. That'll make a nice notch through both tags. I'm going to take this one, flip it around to the other side. Those notches go into each other and that's what's going to make the join. So this little set of tags, one tag is going to attach to each side of the Adirondack chair and the join in the middle is what's going to make this whole thing expand. Now what I like about this card is you can always unjoin them. So it's real easy to just unnotch them and work 1/2 at a time. When they're unjoined, you can still kind of stretch things out and get things flat for decorating. That's a great feature of this card. But in terms of adding the tags, we're going to do the exact same process. So the glue goes on the chair itself. The tag goes into the fold. I still think it's a great idea to close up that chair so that you can give everything a good press in the closed position. And you can use the tag that you've already added as a nice guide to make sure that this one is nice and straight. Give everything a good press, and now you've got that tag added. Then I'll turn my attention to the other tag, and I want that to go in there just like that. I'm going to get it out of the way, but I am making sure that I'm paying attention to that tag, that I have not actually flipped the whole tag over, because if you've used a solid color cardstock, it may be difficult to tell, which side is up and which side is down. Just keep it in the correct position so that your notches are opposite each other when they come together in the center, and you haven't accidentally flipped it over to where you have kind of both notches on the bottom or both notches on the top. You definitely want those things to be opposite each other so that when they come to the center, you can twist and notch them together. So I just have to say that I am really in love with this card technique. I just think it's so cool. It's so generic. You can imagine decorating this for any theme imaginable. And how wonderful is it to take a die like an Adirondack chair pop-up and then make a completely different mechanism out of it. And it's really simple. So I'm just really happy with this. I can hardly wait till the team gets going with this technique. I imagine we're going to see all sorts of really, really cool cascading tag cards in the future. Just paying attention to where my holes are there. That's why I flipped that over. The holes should be at the top so that that's where I can hang my charms. And one of my favorite things about this technique is how easy it is to just unnotch it so that you can lay things flat for decorating. So that's going to make it really, really easy. It's not like you have to have those tags fully decorated before you add them to your card. And you also have the option to add additional decoration to the background. So I decided I wanted to see even more of that cool paper. So I just took some of the scraps, added some adhesive, and I'm going to go in there and add those to the background of the card. And I can always then just notch my tags back together to check out how my decorations look. Our designer challenge theme for June 2016 is summer, and this is my card for that challenge. So I'm doing a beach type of birthday theme. I have lots of summer birthdays, and what I've used here is the beach edges, and I've used a couple of the different edges, the palm tree and the sand, and I'm going in now. I've unnotched my tags so I can take a look and see how I want to decorate this. Now, certainly you could decorate your tags even before you add them to the card. And maybe that would be simpler. I like to see how things are going to lay out, especially if I'm making kind of a scenery piece that's going all the way through the tags. So I find it just as easy to go in, use my detail scissors to trim things, just add them where I want them to go, and then pick up the piece, flip it over, use my scissors to trim off any excess. Do want to make sure that my notches are still open to where they can be notched together. And it really is nice how you can just notch them, unnotch them. You can kind of just check how your scene is coming together. Now what I'm going to use for a greeting is one of my newest clear stamp sets is the Steampunk clear stamps. It has this great little happy birthday with these flourishes top and bottom. That's going to fit really nicely right here in between my palm trees. So I'll go ahead and just stamp that on as my greeting. You will find lots of great charm dies in my collection, but you can also make your own charms using any of the small dies like the props sets. So I used the props 2, which has this birthday hat. That was one of my charms. And then I used props 8, which has the slice of cake, as my other charm. And I did embellish the slice of cake with some glossy accents so that it would be shiny. And then I finished out my interior decoration with Rocky the Crab. Now he's been assembled, he's holding the little fork that comes with props 8, and he's been pounced with some ink and embossed with clear powder so that he's shiny. And then I also added a few cupcakes sprinkled along the sand, and those are actually an accessory die that comes with Baker the Beaver. Now I tied some ribbons and twines through all of my holes, and that's when I discovered a little flaw in my design here, because guess what? That little knot on that ribbon is catching on the edge of my card, making it difficult to open the card. And if that continued on, it could actually break the mechanism. So I've definitely got to do something to fix that. And so what I decided to do was just to cut some more tags. Hey, it's a cascading tag book. We can never have too many tags. If I go in there and actually glue a tag to the background of the card on both sides, it will eliminate that catch point. I'd like that tag to kind of line up with the ones when it's closed, so I've unnotched my tag so that I can just check it where I'm placing that tag. I've used a little glue to glue it inside the card there. And what I'm looking to do is to eliminate that catch point. So let me just check it real quick. I'm going to notch my tags back together, and then I'm going to open and close the card a few times, and now there is no edge for that knot of that ribbon to catch against. And the final bit of decoration is just to finish out the front of the card. I'm going to use the Just a Note clear stamps to add Just a Note to Say. And then the rest of this front is going to be a pretty simple lead-in. I'm fairly certain that this card, whoever gets it, is going to be displayed in the open position. I don't really like to double my work, so I always like to do just kind of a simple little lead-in on the front of the card. I've assembled another Rocky the Crab. I've got a piece of that leftover pattern paper and one of those cupcakes. Here is my finished cascading tag card. It measures 3 inches by 6 inches, so it will fit in an A7 envelope. For postage, I got a little bulky with my ribbon, so you may need to reduce your ribbon thickness a little bit if you want to get it down to a single stamp. It might require extra postage. I made this card for a Father's Day card as well this weekend for John, and in this case I just used some little metal charms that I had in my stash instead of die cutting charms. So lots of ways that you can personalize this card technique.
Well, I hope that you feel inspired to try this for yourself. If you need to know about any of the supplies I used in today's video, you can find them in the description box on YouTube, along with a link to the blog post. If you follow me on Facebook, Karen Burniston Designer, you will be treated to daily inspiration. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you'll always find more ideas on my blog, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching.